It's a little bit applying the principles of PRRS control, maximizing immunity, minimizing transmission. So I'm gonna get to that part of it. What are we learning? And you guys heard a lot about it. I will say very similar. I've always said this. We got 11 vets at the Swine Vet Center, and this talk is really all our information that we put together and have thought processes on. And so I'm going to talk about some of the projects. I think I spoke at NPIC this summer, and I thought all 30 were now switched to vaccination programs, not elimination programs. And I was told there's one in Missouri yet that's an elimination program. So all but one are now more of an immunization program. Obviously, what you saw upstairs, some projects are more active than others. And Bob and I had a discussion with the group yesterday, and to get a little bit off track, I think we're kind of at a defining moment for veterinarians. We're not looking very good in the industry right now. We didn't find the index case of PD yet. PD is moving at will, kind of. We're doing a lot of biosecurity stuff, and it's still moving around. These projects, I think, we've heard talks from Clayton and Scott, and I think our practice would agree we should be vaccinating. And to me, getting older, it's like you look back at pseudorabies and go, at this time in pseudorabies, we were vaccinating every positive area. In any high dense areas, we were vaccinating. So why aren't we doing that in the industry? I don't know if we look very good. We're not solving a lot of problems. We're adding an incredible amount of costs to our producers. My first 15 years in practice, I spent the majority of the time eradicating diseases. We eradicated mange, APP, rhinitis, swine dysentery. We don't have any clients with those diseases. And now we have flu still ongoing, we have PRRS, we have now PED, and we're not eradicating, we're not spending time on lowering costs to our producers. We're adding an incredible amount of cost. And so I think we have to change a little bit this. The viruses are different. We could eradicate APP from a farm, and if your neighbor had APP, it didn't really matter. It's never broken back for us, knock on wood. And so the stuff we're dealing with today, it matters. It matters what your neighbor has, what your region has. So I think we have to think of it different. And you see the pipestone system. Our system, we vaccinate all our finishing pigs in a high dense area, have for quite a while. And so it's a defining moment. Somebody at the ASV task force yesterday, Bob, said, never let a good crisis go to waste. I think it was Winston Churchill's quote, right? There was a quote in the sports section today talking about the Chicago Bears, and I don't know how it got into that section, but there's another Winston Churchill quote that said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And so I think we're in hell right now. We got to keep pushing through it, but I think we need bigger, bolder thinkers. And so I'll never get through my 200 slides if I sit on one. So obviously everybody knows there's lots of projects going on, and my point there was a little bit, we maybe shouldn't have 30 projects. We should have an Iowa project or a Minnesota project or the Upper Midwest project. There's a lot of good things that are happening, but they're not happening consistent enough at a higher percent in those areas. So why are we all of a sudden, all the projects are vaccination projects? We're not getting 100% participation. We didn't get that with pseudorabies. We had trouble getting everybody until the government stepped up and said, the national pork producers stepped up and said, we want to get rid of this. This is a virus that was spreading irregardless of what we did. We wanted to get rid of it. And so we had to have leadership that stood up and said, you will participate. This isn't voluntary. And so we have too many instances of people breaking the systems. One of our problems with all our regions, sow farms are more motivated than grow finish. A grow finish guy gets PRRS, yeah, he feels it a little bit, maybe if he's got some secondaries. PED is worse. They're not getting, I mean, they go through 2 days of vomiting, diarrhea, and they're over with. So it's hard to get them excited about it. And so sow farms are more motivated. We have trouble getting just the wean to finish or grow finish guys coming to these meetings. Boy, this is slow. Should I be pointing somewhere, Bob? So one of the issues everybody knows, dirty pigs are moved into an area, they infect a neighboring sow farm spread piglets out in that area, and boom, it's over. So progress goes very, very rapidly backwards. Dave Wright was up here again. I took a picture of his title. He always says voluntary, and I always say, I don't think that's going to get it done. I don't think if we allow 10, 20, 5% of the people to do their own thing, bring in dirty pigs, not do an eradication if the whole area wants to eradicate, I don't think we'll get it done. And that's a disservice to our clients if we know how to control stuff or we don't sell it hard enough. And so is it mandatory? Do the pork producers lead it? We've had more and more of those discussions that we have to change how we're doing. The bugs are different. The bugs spread farm to farm in an area. You see that with PRRS, you see that with PED. It gets in an area, it's going to hit all the farms. And so that doesn't look well to our clients. How do I stop PED? I don't know. Hope no one brings it in your area, because if somebody brings it in your area, you're going to get it. I don't like delivering those kind of messages, and that's what's happening. And so we need to rethink. I think we have to think bigger picture of these little region projects that started, like Bob was the first one in 04. We just haven't gone fast enough, big enough. We have to change how we're doing. They're nice little projects, some of them. So you've seen this. Bob is showing this. This was that first project he talked about. That was 04, Bob, or 02? Yep. So yeah, the Stevens County project, one whole county. It expanded to 6 counties. Then we did north of 212 in an old pseudorabies line. That pseudorabies line, you could not move positive pigs north. You could not cross that line. Even if they're vaccinated, you had respect that that was a free pseudorabies area. On the left side is the 04 map, lots of reds, there was lots of positive. These were by Dr. Morrison here and Dave Wright. On the right was 2012, essentially got the whole area negative. In less than a year, we went all back red, or high percentage red again. It was really sad because that big arrow to the left, that's the original Stevens County project. A group of producers has been working in the center of the state where that big circle is and had gotten almost every farm. They go door to door and they get pigs in there. That area is quite clean. The Princeburg area, the 3 biggest farms filtered, and now have gotten the majority of those farms negative. So we were a year behind on this work to get those 2 big circles where the Morris project, you know, if that would have stayed good, we'd have been looking really good north of 212. So to me, I don't know if government's the right word. We need producers, we need veterinarians to step up, we need the National Pork Board to say, are we going to control these different bugs? This is not APP or mange or whatever. This is spreading farm to farm in a region, and if we're going to control these, then we should do regional programs. Many of these have had problems because they didn't get 100% compliance. Pseudorabies was tough to do it, but we did it because it was 100%. So vaccination, how did we get here? On vaccination, I remember the first discussions we had, similar to pseudorabies, when we started doing pseudorabies 20 years ago or whenever that was, it was like, yeah, that's fine in northern Minnesota. How are you going to get southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, North Carolina? And so those were discussions. What are you going to do for vaccinations? How are you going to get those areas of the world? And so those discussions, we just went on to the next bug. We went on to PRRS. Same thing's going to happen. Early on, when the Morris project, the Stevens County thing, North Dakota, projects were starting to have really good success when they started. And so, yeah, that's great, but what are we going to do when we get to Iowa and North Carolina? Same thing. Same discussion sound like that we had. Now we got the same thing with PED. And so that started the discussion. I was in those discussions. Let's try, we got to mass vaccinate. We got to know. We got to not get everything negative north of 212. We got to get right into the heart of Iowa and see what can we do with vaccine. And so that started the thought process of some of these that originally, like Southeast Iowa, that Sonia talked about, we started the project with vaccine. We're going to try to get a high percentage of pigs, sow farms and finishing pigs, all vaccinated. So that was the start of some of these. We have not played with dose or frequency. Some of you remember the pseudorabies. That wasn't recommended bottled dose. That got it done at the end. We gave quarterly doses to all sows, so 4 doses to sows. We gave an intranasal to piglets, and then we gave 2 more shots. So it took 3 shots to pigs, and bang, it went away. We haven't even played that game yet. We're in the early stages of trying to get a whole county mass vaccinated. What does that do? It's feeling good to a lot of us. It sounds like Clayton it does, and Scott does, it does to our guys in our practice. Getting lots of pigs in an area vaccinated, but we won't get there with 80% vaccinated or allowing pigs to come in there that are dirty. So in that, and the first one was the Southeast Iowa one, and so what were the original goals set out? Increase awareness, improve biosecurity, reduce incidence, fewer introductions, decrease length of shedding, like Scott showed, study movement of regional diseases and any new diseases that might come. So we're adding PED to most of these projects, more consistent sow farm production. So increase awareness and associated costs. I think a lot of these projects have done that pretty good to the sows. Enhanced awareness, biosecurity, truck wash. We know a lot about truck washes and packing plants now. Our producers are like, how big a bench you do and how do you booty up and slide across a bench. Those are little things in a big chain. We got to fix packing plants. We got to fix pigs coming into an area. We got to fix, in Minnesota this year, we had a very short pumping period. We offered guys $1,000 to clean their rig and sit down tomorrow before you go clean, and they said, never get my work done. And it's true, it's cold. It's 8 below in the Minnesota this morning. And so our manure thing is a problem. Area level, regional level, farm level, communication among producers, that's been quite good. We have a lot of good stories there. I'll share a couple of them with you later. Reduce the incidence of PRRS, I think that's possible with some of the previous speakers. Reduce the severity, those were the goals. Fewer introductions, highly pathogenic strains, decrease shedding. There's 2 studies that were already shown today. Study PRRS movement, how is it really moving around? Avoid the big spikes. That's what hurts a lot. One of the speakers said it yesterday from North Carolina that, try not to have the big spikes. So vaccinated pigs sometimes don't do that much. They do drop the big spikes that hurt you, have the 10%ers. And we talked about for the last 5 years, we'd study other diseases. We'd be all set up. Well, we are, and here it is. We also talk welfare, the Southeast Iowa one, the producers in Washington County, Southeast Iowa project want to talk welfare. They showed the videos at that meeting and said, we don't raise pigs like that. We should have that in our program. We should talk about how our program participants don't have welfare issues. We raise pigs better. They wanted to actually put cameras in every building, in every room, and show the world we do better. We don't do what these videos have. So that was an interesting twist the producers brought up. Have we accomplished these goals? So awareness and communication. There's been some fun ones. I call it wouldn't have happened without the ARC program in those areas. So it's producers working together, increased awareness led to changing decisions. One of the early ones, northern Minnesota, we had a producer, lost the source of weaned pigs. He called me up and said, you know, I lost my source of weaned pigs. I got to get a different source, and I know you guys have a program going in this area. I don't know, I haven't been to the meetings, but I don't want to blow whatever you guys got going. What should I do? And we said, well, you got to do a vet-to-vet, and we're trying to get all the pigs vaccinated, and that's what he did. We did a vet-to-vet, got him clean pigs, and he vaccinated. That wouldn't have happened. If he didn't know we had a program going, that wouldn't have happened. We had a sow herd break. Going to send this week's pigs. There was a sow co-op that had 8 owners. Just happened the owner of those pigs this week, which were only about a tenth of, or not a tenth, but a quarter of what they should have been. We're going to go right next to the biggest sow herd in the county. They had a conference call because they know this is a program area. And so after about an hour or so, we switched barns, put those pigs over there, didn't put clean pigs by the sow farm, because we knew if those 350 pigs infected that big sow farm, those pigs would go out to the county and infect the whole county. And so that wouldn't have happened without them knowing there's a program. We've had numerous instances of, in a program area, my positive pigs are going, oh, that's right next to somebody's sow farm. How can I change flow? So they have traded barns, or just if they're bigger, we change the flow. So we put negative pigs because we don't want to put positive pigs next to that guy. That wouldn't have happened if we weren't in a program, because they're a pain to switch flow, as all of you know. Large positive continuous sites, we've had instances, big finishing sites that have multiple age groups of pigs that have a resident PRRS virus that they have taken down. They've done a program to get rid of it. They don't perceive that it costs them much, but they don't want to be the typhoid Mary for the neighborhood. So those are some good communication stories. We had one at Sonia's Southeast Iowa meeting here 2 weeks ago where some PED pigs were going to go right next to a guy, and he's a batch farrower, farrows every 7 weeks, and he goes, you know, can't you hold them for 2 weeks? He said, I actually wouldn't mind getting PED when they're 3 weeks old. I don't want them the week I'm farrowing. And so they ended up, at the end of the day, solving that problem. Filtration has been part of some of these programs. Scott said 90 to 100 in Pipestone. I think we're that or more in continuing to do more filtration. That's helped some of these areas in the Princeburg area. The 3 biggest farms filtered. That's cleaned up that area a lot. Southeast Iowa, the biggest farm in that project, filtered. They're also, Southeast Iowa is getting a lot of pigs from the 3 counties in Illinois that filtered 6 farms, so that's helped that area a lot. So filtration is part of this. We always tell people, you know, filtration is done for PRRS. It also does mycoplasma. So our clinic has done, I think Paul, wherever Paul is, about 100,000 sows in the last few years. And so that's been a huge positive. It feels like old-time veterinary medicine. We're getting rid of a disease. And when pigs go through PRRS or flu in the finishing barn, if they don't have myco, it's much easier. And we don't deal with flu much better than we did when I graduated. But myco is one. That feels like what veterinarians should be doing, getting rid of disease, controlling disease. That's why PRRS and PED have not made my good list. Let's talk about some of the successes, other successes. That communication piece I think is good. You got producers working together, so they're more aware of PRRS and related costs. We've done a tremendous job. I think Zimmerman's in the audience. The rope test is just incredible. I mean, we need to use that more. And the Swiffer testing compared to, 10 years ago, you had to go bleed, and you only bled so many. And, producers all have ropes and Swiffers, and they check things. That should be helping us a lot, or even more than it is already. We have improved biosecurity. Some of the early PED in May and June, we tightened up the clean, dirty lines and finishing, load-out chutes and stuff, and we made progress there. We didn't have much after that. And so we have improved things. My concern is those are little things compared to the big issues of packing plants and truck washes and non-wash trucks and pigs moving around into clean areas that we have to pick up at a different level. Producers have made allied industries aware of some of these area regional things. I know Northwest Iowa, Janae had it with her group, Sonia had it with hers. So we had all the allied not producers, but all the vendors. Everybody that touched that farm came to a meeting. We explained PRRS at a very simple level and explained to them. So measurements, and that's success. If that looks fuzzy, you didn't get something in your brake pop or anything. That's meant to be fuzzy because it's hard to measure success. You know, Clayton and Scott talked, and how do you really measure some of that? It's going to be hard to compare. We need to get more of these projects, get them bigger, and compare project to project. And so, because it's going to be bigger studies. So we look at, in the best ones, breaks by year, by type, by location. We look examples of outbreaks per period, positive breeding herds, is that going down, et cetera, and I'll show you data on that. Benchmark within project. We want to do it. Dr. Gillespie came up to me yesterday. We got to do more of that. He saw these and said, we got to compare some of these. How are we making progress? Want to look at it. People like being part of something successful. I got graphs off the Southeast Iowa one. There's 49 producers, 418 sites, like Sonia said, 1 million plus pigs. Been a very good working group. We meet quarterly. Vets meet for about 2 hours. Producers meet for 2 hours after that. This one went about 3 hours. This was last agenda item. And so you have the basic PRRS stuff. Kate Mueller from Diagnostic Lab gave her premise ID. Then the rest of the meeting, you know, and that was kind of a like, geez, we must be making progress. Producers didn't want to talk about PRRS. They want to talk about PED. PRRS has been less. And it's a vaccinated, highly vaccinated area. And so Dania talked on a recent break. So did Keith Algetz. I talked on action plans and the packing plant study that Paul had given a talk on, and they brought up the welfare thing. So very good agendas. We have the veterinarians first and then the producers. We have had allied meeting. That's Aaron talking to plumbers, electricians, LP guys, everybody. You know, they don't know what PRRS is. They don't know what we're going through. Somebody said, really? I got to have more than one pair of boots? They cost $150, my work boots cost. I go, if PRRS comes into this farm, it costs this guy $1 million. You know, I have 30 pairs of shoes that I rotate and wash. And so they get it. We map and try to explain where everything is. This is, producers got to get something. That's one of the things of the project. Sonia has done really good. Every 2 weeks they get material. So they get a chart like this. They like seeing something on a regular basis. It can't be quarterly. Outbreaks per period. So there was 1 year of enrolling. This is the first year, August 11 to end of July of 12. So you had 38 new outbreaks. We categorize it by finishing nursery breeding. The next year, so this past year through November, there's only 14 breaks. So producers kind of look at this, and everybody knows sometimes PRRS has a good year and then a bad year and then a good year. But this is good. They're seeing positive data. And so that's why we were able to talk about PED the whole time. There's been very few breaks the last 6 months or so. So that's the kind of data they want. They get it differently, another way it's done. This chart comes out every 2 weeks. And this one is 1 year versus the previous year in the same time frame. I took all of those 2-week charts all the way back to the beginning of 2012. So every 2 weeks, and I graphed every one of those numbers. So we hadn't looked at that. And so percent positive. So these are positive sites that weren't doing anything. So that's gone down significantly in the last 2.5 or 2+ years. Percent positive vaccinated. This means the positive sites, leaking farms, whatever, we're vaccinating those. So you saw the shedding data that Scott showed. That's going to impact these farms. The negative vaccinated, you saw they had 38 breaks early, but now we're up to almost 25% of the herds are negative and they're vaccinating. Producers like seeing these kind of charts. They look at this and said, this appears like we're making progress. Everybody, no one brags about PRRS. The negative farms, so these are unvaccinated farms, so we're getting less that aren't doing anything. So I think those are good. It's long term. We need to benchmark this against others. But there's a lot of good data there. If you take what Clayton said, what Scott said, what I'm showing you, there's a lot of good stuff. And so, like, we get rid of mycoplasma because we don't know how to control flu or PRRS spread in an area of northern Iowa, so let's get rid of one we can. So we're starting to get enough data that says, doesn't vaccine help enough? It looks like on a big scale it is. In the same level as pseudorabies, we made the leap of faith and said, let's vaccinate everybody. Let's make it mandatory. I think that's what the producers have to get behind some of this stuff and say, time. Let's do it. We can't have 80% do stuff and 20% not. We have to look at it different because the viruses are winning right now. And so facts, local support is mandatory, producers, veterinarians. We have to take ownership. You have to have a champion in every area. Everybody's got to recruit. If that producer isn't in, you got to talk to them at church and at the bank and whatever. We put ads out in the papers and talk about it. They want PRRS solution, motivation enough. They're scared. Producers' attitudes are not good the last 6 months. They're making more money they've made in an incredible amount of time, and it's like, here comes the next virus. We haven't solved the last one yet. It's a different attitude. Motivation has actually been easier. I think, Bob, you ran into this in an Iowa project. Everybody's seen PRRS. Everybody's felt it. Every farm's had it. They know it costs them money. When you get into a negative clean area, and they haven't really had any problem with PRRS, and it's hard to get them fired up to join the project because they haven't had PRRS in 8 years. But you might, and then you'd ruin the whole project. And so motivation has been easier in hog-dense areas. They need regular reminders. The best projects are the ones with the best coordinators who send something out. They give them up-to-the-date information. They make phone calls. They remind them you didn't get last week's numbers in, and it happens more regularly. Weekly or every other week, they need feedback. Facts, you need an aggressive coordinator, make sure everything gets done. Sonia's done a great job in the Southeast Iowa project for that, getting something out. This is what comes out every 2 weeks. You have updated everything. You see what happened in the last 2 weeks. Well, E22 was a finishing site, previous status was positive, now it's negative. It got filled. So it got empty and got refilled with negative pigs. So a producer can look at that and see what's going on in his area. Mapping has been tough. BI has helped a lot of these projects do mapping. That's been great. John Paul, Enrique have helped us with maps. We have the non-believers, and I'm getting tired of the non-believers that I think we got to make them believe or just toe the line. I think we need to make progress because we're just adding cost to this industry. That's why we've been great exports. We're cheaper than everybody else. And so I think it's a long-term study. When we look at this stuff, when we tell people if you're going to vaccinate area, you can't say next week it's better. You have to look at it long term. There's no quick win. So it's a hard sell when you go in to vaccinate versus if you're doing eradication in the area, there was 100 farms, now there's only 50 positive. That's, yay, we did it. And so when you're vaccinating, it's long term. There's going to be some breaks, but you're trying to change that. People think PRRS is everywhere. We're not going to do it. Scott scared us today and said, geez, it jumps 170 miles out in South Dakota. But you weren't in South Dakota a week ago and felt the wind. It was really windy in South Dakota. So maybe it's that wind. People think we can't win. They don't think the vaccine is good enough. I don't know how many times I've heard it's not as good a vaccine as pseudorabies. You go, yep, it's not. But it's the best tool we got. We do a lot of things. You know, I don't wash every truck, but I wash the important ones. And there's a lot of things that it's not good enough, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing more of it. It's too expensive, too much labor. We heard that on pseudorabies all the time. Yep, that's a quarter. And even when we gave it to them, they thought it was too much. And so that's not that good argument either. Some producers always want somebody else to pay. There's an incredible cost that's going on in this industry right now. I've spent every day on biosecurity since May. And adding, build another truck wash, build 2. I think we need 2. And do it this way and buy more trailers. You can't get a trailer. If you want a trailer for Christmas under the tree, you can't get one. It's going to take till April to get a new trailer because they're so far behind. And we have not done a thing in the last 5 months that lowered costs of my producers. We sat with a meeting the other day. We had 20 people from a production company, and I sat next to the guy and I said, we're just adding costs to everything. These 20 people should be talking about farrowing rates and pre-wean and stuff like that. And we're talking about adding costs just to make sure we don't lose something. So we got to change. And we're paying it one way or the other. I hate these discussions when we have these regional projects and, well, the funding runs out and this guy's not going to pay for this. It's like, you're paying for one way. We have to get over that a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. Take-home messages, Bob, I'm almost done. You gave a long introduction, so it's your fault. One of our producers at the last Southeast said, you have to have a theme. He said, I bet other people would have come if you had known it was going to talk about PED. And so we maybe don't advertise it good enough. We call them and bug them, but you know, who's going to be on, what's going to happen, and have themes to try to get more people. Local producers got to have panels. We've done that in multiple different, have producers stand up and say, what have you done to change biosecurity in the last 6 months? Producers always like hearing from other producers, just like vets like hearing from other vets. And so have some of them. They get nervous, they don't want to do it, but they stand up and do a great job of explaining what they did in their system to improve their system. And that makes more impact sometimes than veterinarians tell them you got to put a bench in and paint a red stripe on the floor. So work like a big system. And so all of us work in some big systems, and we know what we do. We protect areas and we do stuff for the system. We have to call the big system as North America or United States or Iowa or whatever. We need to think more than these little county projects. These are big bugs, they're tough, and we have to think differently than just little regional projects. We got to get bigger, we got to add more, we probably got to do the whole state. And so Yeski, I hope you got more time on your hands to get this done. So work like a big system. In big systems, we move pigs around. They can't go to that site, that's a protected site. We don't want dirty pigs over there, they got to go over here. But those end up being dirty, we just moved them yesterday. Go pick them up and put them over here. And so we got to be able to do that, trade barns, etc., in order to help keep these areas clean. We always try to go away from these projects. Dania gave this one at the last project, risk minimization for PED. So she had gone through her talk, gave them something concrete to go home with. I did, we've got an action plan. Action plan for a break. What do you do? All the decisions you have to make in the first day, the second day, etc. So we went through that with all our different projects. So summary, I think some of that's really good data that shows over a 3-year project, vaccination of the majority of the pigs in an area with filtration, with biosecurity, with making moves because the producers are working together. I think the data says we're making progress. Time will tell. We're not going to brag about it yet. That's the data, though. And at some point, we got to make the leap of faith and said, we're hearing a lot of data that's helping. And so when are we going to take it to the next step and do mass areas? And so producers are less concerned with PRRS today and PED. We're not slowing that one down hardly at all. Gets in your area and it's going to move. So I think we've just gotten a good start on some of this. We need to go faster. We should do more, expand projects, go national. PED is showing us that our system is not very good and is not ready for disease control. That's a whole different discussion if I said the next one's going to be hog cholera. You're going to go, wow, we didn't do very good on PED. We haven't done anything. It's moving right around us. And so I think we got decisions because that one's going to be tough. So we want to work harder on PRRS. We want to work harder on PED.